It's been a minute, but I got some updates for you. In the last episode, I left off with me, traveling to visit some friends and family, taking a break. That was about a 2-month break where I thought I was gonna get a lot of work done on Creator View, a lot of coding. Basically nothing happened on the coding front. I did, however, find a potential co-founder, so it's not like I was doing nothing, but you know how it is, right? It's hard when you're traveling on vacation, visiting friends and family. It's hard to get work done sometimes. But like I said, I did a bunch of interviews based on 2 videos ago where I put out the call for a potential co-founder, what I was looking for. I got about 30 to 40 responses. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how that process went, how it's going so far with the potential co-founder, going to show off a new goals screen, and then we'll talk about the beta/launch timeline. So like I said, I found a potential co-founder. We're doing that trial period. We're about 2 weeks into it. They started on December 6th. So far, so good. Could be considered the honeymoon phase though. It's only been 2 weeks, but very happy with how things are going so far. Now, I'm not gonna make any announcements or say who it is during the trial period because it is exactly that, a trial period. Who knows? This thing could blow up in a week or two and then, on to someone else, right? So once this is official, they will be part of the videos. I'll introduce them, all that stuff. But again, it's going good so far, but let's talk about the process on how I landed this person. Obviously, I put out the video 2 videos ago, saying what I was looking for. Got about 30 to 40 responses. There's 2 points I want to make about this group of people that responded. I would say over half of them were people I had familiarity with. What do I mean by that? These are people I have been interacting with on Twitter for years, or have been interacting in the comments on my YouTube videos, or they've taken courses and I've seen them in the Slack channel, or maybe I've met them at a conference, or maybe they've, in my live streams all the time, or some of them I've even hired for previous projects. And one of them actually was someone I did my iOS bootcamp with all the way back in 2015, and we've kept in touch over the years. The point I'm trying to make is, if you ever are in the situation where you're trying to apply to a scenario like this and you're interested in that, that familiarity gave that group of people a major leg up over the people I had never heard of. So I guess the lesson there is like, man, get active in the community. Not just me, just the whole iOS dev community. The more you're kind of known, so to speak, in that community, I think the more opportunities will come your way. Now, like I said, I'm not ruling out all the people that I wasn't familiar with, I had never heard of, never met, but this is a co-founder position. This is like a relationship. This is like a marriage. This isn't just hiring a developer to write some code, right? This is a much bigger deal. So those people I wasn't familiar with were, admittedly starting a little behind. So from those 30 to 40 applications, I narrowed it down to about 10 to hop on an introductory half-hour Zoom call with. And that was pretty surface level, just, why are you interested in Creator View? What are you doing right now? Where are you working? Tell me about your experience, that sort of stuff. Again, very surface level. From there, I narrowed it down to 3 that I really wanted to go deep with. And again, just for context, all 3 of them I was already familiar with. So the process of going deeper on these final 3, like the main question I wanted to know was the founder mentality versus employee mentality. I had mentioned that in the video where I was talking about what I'm looking for. Because that is very hard to decipher, just talking to someone. For example, the first 2 steps of, these final 3 were a couple phone calls, just more chatting, more conversational, but digging deep into like what they're doing, what they're looking for. But what I discovered was that after those calls, they were all like neck and neck. Nobody was differentiating themselves. I mean, I liked them all. That's what I meant. Like, I loved them all at that point. And, it's easy to say the right things when you're just having a conversation, especially about that founder mentality versus employee mentality. So I decided to come up with 2 things to kind of like test that, right? So the first one was a take-home project. Not like the take-home project you're probably thinking of. I didn't have them code anything. I didn't have them build anything. This was more of a like product take-home project. So what the project was to come up with a feature for channel memberships. If you're not familiar, you may see the little join button on some YouTube channels. You can click that, you can offer different membership tiers, right? There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and they can be different prices. If you're familiar with Twitch, it's Twitch subscriptions, same thing. Multiple tiers, different prices. So you can imagine as a user, somebody using Creator View, you might want like a member manager, right? Where you can see your list of members. Maybe you can see how many members per tier you have, how much revenue per tier you're making. Maybe you want to see what members have been with you the longest, what members have supported you the most financially, kind of stuff, right? You can see a lot of information you might want from all your channel members. Now, of course, I didn't tell the candidates this. I just said, hey, I would like a feature around channel memberships. see what you can come up with. And the assignment wasn't to build it, it was to mock it up in like Sketch, Photoshop, hand-drawn, whatever. Just give me like mock-ups of your idea. Well, one, they had to come up with the idea. Two, they had to come up with some mock-ups. And then three, they had to present it to me, mainly to see like, okay, how can you present your idea? Can we bounce back and forth, brainstorming ideas? Like, how do we work, in that? So that was kind of the test there. And people really did start to differentiate themselves at this point. Like some people came up with like really good features, and you could tell that they researched the creator space, right? Because my advantage is I'm the user, right? I have the YouTube channel that I'm running my business. The person that is the potential co-founder, like these three don't have that YouTube background, but that's the handicap they're always gonna have. So that was part of the test too, is can you come up with a good feature without having like, the background of actually being the user? So that was another big test as well. So like I said, after everybody presented their projects, things started to differentiate, based on, again, the presentation, what they came up with, how they were thinking about the product, that sort of stuff. Because again, I'm looking for a partner in this. I'm not looking for someone that says, hey, build what I tell you to build. Here's the design, just build it. I need someone that can come up with great ideas, great features, great UI, make the product better on their own, right? Not just wait for me to tell them what to do. So that was another part of that test. Now, the second part, in my opinion, really got to the heart of the founder mentality versus employee mentality, because now it's about putting your money where your mouth is. So what I had them do is basically give me a quote on how much they would charge me for these 6 months. Because in the video where I put all this out there, I said, for this 6 month trial, I'll pay your contracting rate, etc. However, I don't care about their hourly rate. Like, I don't want to have them invoice me for hours and have to pay attention to what hours they're doing. I was like, I don't have time for that. Like, I wanted basically like come up with a monthly number that you're comfortable with, knowing that you're going to work on this, 10 to 15 hours a week, roughly. That way you don't have to like manage your hours. Don't think about it. I will pay you at the first of the month. I'll pay you up front, whatever that amount is, and go. And we don't have to think about hours. We're just working. So I had them come up with that number. Now, this is where, and I may catch shit for this because I caught shit in the previous video about, people working for equity and free and all that stuff. But in my opinion, the test here, the answer was free or damn near free. And let me tell you why. Because like I've been saying, my biggest worry with this position is finding somebody that has the founder mentality. And for context on all three of these candidates, they're full-time iOS developers at some other place. They're fine on money. They're not starving, right? And this is a little side project they're working on 10 to 15 hours a week. We all probably have side projects we tinker with that amount of time, like for free anyway. But many of you may be thinking like, oh no, you should get paid for your work, you should do all that. And it's not that I'm like, don't want to pay them or not actively paying them. Again, I'm trying to find the person with the right mentality. And if your mentality is, hey, I'm trying to build this company from 0 to 1, like try to get this off the ground, putting in my blood, sweat, and tears. Oh, I worked on the company for 10 hours, even though it's not making any money, it's not started. Well, I deserve 10 hours of my hourly rate. Like, that is an employee mentality. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you should be an employee somewhere. You should be a contractor, a freelancer, consultant, whatever. Fine, if you feel that way, absolutely. But you should not be the co-founder of a startup trying to go from nothing to a successful product, right? It's just two different worlds. And again, my biggest worry is finding somebody that's not ready to be a founder and then it blowing up in my face a year later. Because like the number one cause of failure for startups is founder divorce, right? So you gotta make sure you get along, you gotta make sure they have that mentality. So again, the test of like giving me their monthly rate was to see like, does someone see this opportunity, this product, what we're trying to create? Do they believe in it enough to be like, you know what? I will work on this for, no, by the way, 2 of them came back with dirt cheap prices. 1 of them came back with like a typical like, $100 plus hourly rate kind of thing. So the 2 that came back with, it wasn't free, but it was basically free. It was like dirt cheap. But that's the right answer. Like I said, you're showing me that like, hey, I see value in this opportunity. I think we can make something out of this. Like, let's go. And again, you got to remember, it's not like I'm doing a trial period with 10 people and picking one. Like, I'm doing this trial under the assumption that like, this is it, this is the co-founder, right? The trial period is essentially like break glass in case of emergency, right? If things don't go well, it's kind of a way for us to break up amicably, right? But I'm not like hoping to try out 10 different people. I want this to be the one. So again, the reward at the end is, 25, 30, 40% equity in the company, depending on how it goes. That's a big deal. And again, back to founder mentality, that's what starting a startup is all about, right? Your blood, sweat, and tears, you're bleeding from your eyes, getting no reward for the first couple years, and then all the reward comes at the end when you finally make the product a success. Again, during those blood, sweat, and tears, you're in the trenches, you're trying to build this thing, you should not expect to be getting your hourly market rate during those times. Again, if you're trying to be a co-founder of a company. If you want to be an employee, great, not knocking you. But yeah, this is not the place kind of for that attitude. And I'm catching myself like maybe getting a little defensive and like throwing all these caveats out there. But I just, I've seen the comments, I've seen conversations about this kind of stuff on Twitter. I know most people aren't going to agree with me. But like I said, trying to start a company, trying to start a startup is a different world. And just to be blunt, let me say, if you have started a startup from nothing, built it into success, and you disagree with kind of my mentality here, I would love to chat with you, would love to learn from you, like teach me. However, if you've never started a successful company, startup, and built it into something, I just can't take your opinion on this matter. Sorry. So anyway, to sum all this up, between the take-home project and the pricing structure, a candidate emerged. The final two candidates were actually very, very close, but I did go with one. And again, it's been 2 weeks. So far, very happy. The thing I'm most happy with, I think, is their UI sense. They've done a couple little projects. Actually, this widget that you're about to see when we talk about the goals, that was completely them, because widgets are compartmentalized. It's kind of off on their own. It was a good first project for them. But it is an example of the kind of UI they've been coming up with on some of the other projects. I've given very minor UI direction here and there, but for the most part, they're already like up and running on their own, turning out good, clean looking UI. So very happy with that. Can't wait to see how it like progresses. Like I said, maybe it's the honeymoon phase, but so far so good on the potential co-founder. Let's move on to this new goal screen, which by the way, horrible UI, very much placeholder UI. It actually is gonna look more like the widgets that you saw there, but this is my placeholder UI. The purpose of this goal screen, as you can see throughout the app, right? Some charts, if it's a red bar, if you don't hit your goal, it's a green bar if you hit your goal. It's a common theme throughout many areas of the app. And I needed a place for them to like set their goals. My first thought was contextually, whatever chart they're seeing, they can like tap a button and set the goal. So like they could set the goal right where they're seeing the results, right? You're all in the same context. But that turned out to be a pain and things were scattered. So I decided to come up with a central goal screen. And then kind of a happy accident, to quote Bob Ross here, I discovered like, oh, I kind of like having all my goals on this one screen, because I can imagine myself coming to this screen just to get a monthly check-in. Like here's how I'm doing on views, here's how I'm doing on income, all that stuff. And it was just a good overview of how I'm doing for the month based on my goals in these progress bars. And that is also what we chose to do for our widget, as you can see here. And again, that goal screen you saw is probably gonna look more like these widgets when it's all said and done. But onto the widget, again, this is what the potential co-founder built. We decided to start with goals at first, but I can see this app having a ton of like pretty cool widgets, right? So you see all this goal stuff, but you can do stuff with the schedule. Like what are your next upcoming 3 videos, your next month's worth of videos? You can imagine that on a larger widget. You could do stuff around like income and all these charts you see on the income screen. Again, these are the basic data visualizations. I imagine this app to have a bunch of really cool data visualizations over time. You can see how those can turn into widgets. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think widgets could be a really cool part of this app, but because we're in MVP land, just keeping it simple to beginning, we're just starting off with showing various number of goals on your widget. But you can see on that extra large widget, right? They're red when you haven't hit your goal. They turn green when you hit your goal. I can imagine that being on your iPad like home screen, and that's always just an at glance, how you're doing for the month on your YouTube channel. I think a lot of people are gonna like that one. And then of course, like I said, the whole app is like an MVP of MVPs. The widgets can expand obviously, but so can the goals. Right now we're sticking with like monthly goals. I mean, you can imagine yearly goals. I mean, you can make all kinds of goals around this stuff. So that could easily expand. But that was kind of the new last minute screen I threw in, kind of just thought of on the fly, wanted to share that. Let's finish up with talking about the beta and launch timeline. So the app is ready to beta test pretty much. I have to go through Google verification to use Google Auth. They want to make sure because I'm using people's private data, right? They authenticate with Google so they can see all their channel revenue, channel stuff. So Google makes you go through this little verification process. Going through that now. The reason I say that is as soon as I'm done with the Google verification is when I'm going to launch the beta. That could be a week, that could be 2 weeks. I don't know how long this verification is going to take, but that's kind of the holdup. But I'm looking initially for the beta to get about 10 to 20 people, and I may expand that like as time goes on, more versions, because to be honest, the app hasn't really been beat on quite yet. Like I've been using it, I've been testing it, but it's a lot different when you have like 30 people all using it. You start really finding the edge cases during that time. But anyway, I'll talk more about the beta in the next video, because that's what that whole video is going to be about. I'm going to put out the call for beta testers, so don't email me quite yet. And I'll go through the app, show you screen by screen, kind of explain how things work, explain what I'm looking for beta testers, explain how I'm running the beta, what we're looking for, in case you're curious about how to run your own beta. So that'll come in the next video, but the timeline for that, like I said, hopefully by the end of December, maybe early January, we're doing the beta, and then the launch, obviously depending on how the beta goes. If some catastrophic comes up in the beta, it might get pushed back, but hopefully mid to end of January is what we're looking to launch. And then, like I said, I haven't shown the app off too much this video, but in the next video you'll see, because I'm in the middle of doing a whole polish run, where one, I'm refactoring some technical debt, because I was just hacking away, cleaning up the code base a little bit, and also cleaning up the user experience as much as possible, because there's a lot of data entry in this app. Just putting a whole polish pass on it, like spend a week just polishing each screen, getting it ready for real people to actually use. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the beta goes smooth, the launch can be shortly after the beta, so I don't have an official launch date, but again, hoping before the end of January is what I'm really hoping for. But anyway, that wraps it up for this video. We'll see you in the next one where we really dive into the app and the beta.